This is a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, October 18, 2022. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the annual notice, which has been posted on the bulletin boards, filed with the Borough Clerk, and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, the Star Ledger, and the Two River Times.
Great, thank you. Can we please have a roll call?
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Council President McNamara.
Here.
Councilmember Pacheco. Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Councilmember Davidson.
Here.
Councilmember Aranio. Here. And Councilmember Pepperoni.
Here.
Thank you.
Everyone, can please join me in saluting the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone, please remain standing. This evening's moment of silence is in honor of a very dedicated member of our community, Mr. Kai Oyama, who we lost on Thursday evening. I don't know that I could do justice to show everything that he has done and accomplished in his life, so I'm going to take it from the words of his family, for the family's permission. Kai Oyama passed away Thursday, October 13, 2022 at Riverview Medical Center in Red Bank. Tai was born in Estonia, and he's survived by his wife of 57 years, Carolyn, his son and daughter-in-law, Jim and Carson Oyama of Asheville, North Carolina, his daughter, Karen Oyama, and his brother and sister-in-law, Beto and Barbara Oyama of Bayville, his nephews, and a niece. Tai was an artist who shared his talent in many ways. He founded an advertising company, Oyama Studios, creating branding and promotional materials. He was also an art educator for over 40 years in Linden Public School in Jersey City, and earned his master's degree along the way. He was an award-winning watercolorist, talented craftsman, and carpenter. He took pride in serving his community as a volunteer with numerous groups, including, but not exclusive of, Keyport's First Aid, Community Emergency Response Team, Garden Walk, and Historical Society. I will say personally, he was one of the first people that welcomed me into this community when I was dedicating my time and volunteering after the hurricane. And he's one of the reasons I joined the Community Emergency Response Team. He's the one that taught our entire team, that made sure that we were always ready to go with our ICS commands and our radios. He didn't like that they would be stored in a plastic bin because we didn't have money from the OEM budget to buy the materials we needed. So he built a box by hand that fit each and every radio for us to carry it like a briefcase to every command call we were called to. He would truly be missed. This moment is not okay. Thank you. We will go on to committee reports. On behalf of Councilmember Pacheco, regarding the Harbor Commission met on October 11th. The group is looking for an update regarding efforts to get a pump-out vote. Also discussed was a possible subcommittee to be created to review the process and make recommendations regarding the no-wake release. The Commission also wants to begin review of all licenses, hot dogs, boathouse, new to you, and in particular the boat slip in preparation for the new year. They have also requested the Borough Administrator to attend the next Harbor Commission meeting to discuss. Well, I'm just reading it. The Commission will also be reviewing and making any recommendations to the revisions of the Wharf and Piers Ordinance. There are also discussions during the public portion about the bulkhead and need for splash pads and also the bylaws. Regards to redevelopment, she said that the committee met with developers interested in coming into town. The developers did not have any draft plans and will come back to the group. In regards to Municipal Alliance, she was in the redevelopment meeting, which was taking place at the same time for the beginning of the Municipal Alliance Committee. But they met on October 13th, and discussion was had about upcoming programming and possible collaboration with Union Beach, as their alliance representative was present at the meeting. For the police committee report, she reported the numbers of 561 calls for service for the month, 22 active detective cases, and the traffic safety stats are 57 stops and 26 summons issued, and that was for the month of October. That's so far for the month of October. Sorry, I'm not used to doing that report. Actually, I'll just take a second now, because I will say one of the comments in her report is about a pump out vote. I am still trying to have dialogue. We've had Kathleen, Council President McNamara, and myself and Jay have had meetings with DEP, but they're not ready to take it to the next step because they're waiting to see what category and division they want to filter this through. So I was actually hoping for the meeting to take place this week, but they've had a 2-week stall. So hopefully that meeting still happens at the year's end. So Councilmember Rainey, if you want to bring that back as feedback, please. And next, Councilmember McDermott.
Thank you, Mayor. So regarding KBBC, I do want to note some key events that are coming up on October 29th. Bewitched in Keyport, it is from 11 to 6. There will be a full day of activities. So there are listed slots of different things from social media, and then we do have signs posted in various businesses. And also we will also be giving away Keyport cash there. The other fact that it's coming up regarding events is on Saturday, November 25th, and Saturday, December 2nd, and Saturday, December 16th is going to be the beginning of what the holiday events. There's going to be Miracle on Front Street on Saturday, November 25th, kind of reinforcing this Shop Small Business initiative, and also to be a full day of activities from pretty much 12 to 8 till 7-ish when Santa comes and Mrs. Claus. So please be on the lookout for details on that. And also every Saturday thereafter, we really the sweater contest with hot chocolate crawl, selfie, scavenger hunt. So these are events that we really want to push and have you visit our businesses, not just look to keep for cash. So, I do want to note throughout the year we've given over $8,500 worth of Keyport cash. So this is money that is returned back that the bid is sponsoring and is returned back to businesses. So hypothetically, if you spend $20 in Keyport cash at one of our restaurants, that business gets directly $20 reimbursed to them. So it is imperative that if you do have Keyport cash out there, please use it before the expiration date. And we are being conscious of giving you till the end of the year, December 31st, or any of that stuff. And again, if you run into issues and it's expired, you want to talk to the business. And we do recommend you ask the business to ensure that they know that you have this when you're supporting their businesses. Because some businesses may or may not, they have an option to accept them. The other thing I do want to note, and I asked to have this put on the website as well and on social media, but there is a grant program, the Monmouth County Community Development COVID Small Business and Nonprofit Assistant Program that will give you up to $20,000 in eligible businesses and eligible cash during your COVID period. So there is a website you can go to. It's also on my Keyport Borough webpage. It is also something that you can access also. So please reach out to me if you have any questions. You can reach out to the mayor as well. She's also a KBC board member. We are here to make sure that every business does take an opportunity to get reimbursed during what was a very difficult time. And yes, our businesses have succeeded and thrived. But we want to make sure you get your credit and you actually allocate for yourself too. So please make sure you go to the Monmouth County Community Development COVID Small Business and Non-Development Assistance Program grant program. Any questions you have, you can reach out to us. I do want to note that these are two Keyport Cash, additional programs that we're doing out there that are what we call both adult and kid-friendly. Please attend those. The other thing I want to talk about is, I want to also talk about now the Environmental Commission. We have this Saturday, we have the fall beach sweeps, which is part of the Clean Communities. That's actually done twice a year. So Keyport is one of the eligible locations. That's a huge thing across the New Jersey shoreline. So if you are local and you love Keyport, please sign up. They're in hour slots, 9 to 10 and 10 to 11. And the reason they do that is so that we don't have like lots of people coming in at the same time, and so we want to get organized. You want to register at the website. I also have that sign up listed on my page, and governing body members have been sharing it. So we do ask, please spread the word on that. It's also a fun day. And I'm not going to talk about the rec committee, but I'll let you guys do that. But I do want to know, I also want to thank the clerk for putting up all our minutes for 2020 and 2021 previously, so we are up to date. So compliance to ordinances, I am doing it. And the last thing I want to talk about, and this is not really related to any specific group, but the Anchor Benefit program. There's online filing for anyone who has rent or property in Keyport. Please make sure the deadline for this is December 30th. It's a very easy process. Please, this takes lieu of the Homestead Rebate Act that was part of the New Jersey programs for homeowners or individuals renting in New Jersey. So please make sure you sign up for the Anchor Benefit online program and see if you're eligible for that. Because again, that's access that you may be able to get money back for as a resident. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Councilmember Davidson.
Thank you. For the construction department, for the month of September, the number of UCC inspections for building are 66, electric 38, fire 18, mechanical 16, plumbing 43, and 2 UCC violations issued. Code enforcement inspections, we had 25 rental inspections, 9 house sales, 80 code enforcement violations, 87 follow-up inspections, 17 property maintenance complaints received, 24 landlord registrations, and 0 vacant property registrations. We have 37 zoning applications, and for zoning violations, we have 6. We have emergency notification forms at 9, fire bureau inspections 65, smoke detector inspections 34. In my last report, the last meeting, I reported on 162 2nd Street. They are still pending their court date December 1st and waiting for any information that comes through. Everything is definitely on their radar and being worked on. For planning board, I wasn't at the last meeting because we couldn't attend, and the next meeting is Thursday, 10/27 at 7 p.m. That is all I have for this evening.
Thank you. For those that are wondering what that means by when she says we couldn't attend, that just means that we're not allowed to vote on the applications that were being heard that night. Thank you. Okay. Council President McNamara.
Thank you. Recreation, the 5K was a success. Most ever runners, I think it was 420. The new course was well received. There was extended use of the Henry Hudson Trail and inclusion of the promenade. Big thank yous to all the folks that made it a success. Keyport Recreation, Keyport Police, DPW, Keyport First Aid, members of CERT, the numerous volunteers that come out every year just to work on this event, and a super thank you, obviously, to Nancy Jones and Mary Holtz, the main driving forces of the event. Trunk or Treat is this weekend, and that's in the waterfront lot, and it will be open for cars to set up between 3 and 4. Registration is requested. 4 to 5:30 is the actual trunk or treat. Costumes obviously are encouraged. And then at 5:45, pizza and a movie right near the gazebo, so bring blankets and chairs for that. Relax and enjoy after all that strenuous candy gathering. We're working on a CPR class offering to help our teens that do babysitting. That was a request we got when we did the self-defense class. And then we're going to start working on the calendar for next year. I don't know where the year is gone that we're already working on next year's calendar. Green Team, we received notification from Sustainable Jersey that we were recertified at the bronze level. And the team continues to look for new innovative action. We've been speaking to nearby communities for possible collaborative efforts. On the senior front, there was a lovely tribute to Elizabeth Walling at the end of September over at the Senior Center. And I hope we can find other venues to share the video from the event, which included audio files made by the county when they were doing a historical preservation project. And it included Elizabeth's voice, her mother's voice, and her sister's voice as well. There's a ton of history recorded in the piece, definitely a fun thing to listen to. As always at the Senior Center, list of lots of activities, trips, and more going on over there. Last week they saw sign-ups and booster and flu shots happening, lots of other things happening there, so just keep a look on their Facebook page or their newsletter that's on the borough website. And just a reminder to all departments, I know that Councilwoman Arena will speak about finance, but just a really big reminder to all departments. Budget work should be going on, and I ask my fellow council members to make sure you get the word out to all necessary groups, and Mr. Borough Administrator, you too. So if everybody can be working on budget stuff, this is really time to be putting the work and effort in. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify and reiterate, since it's only the second year, last year the trunk or treat was in Fireman's Lot. This year it's at Waterfront Park, right? So it's just over this way. Right? I just want to, on the record, one more time to reiterate and clarify, just so everyone's like, well, last year it was over there. We know it was over there last year. This year it's over here.
It's much easier to then just
Transition to the movie.
pizza.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I just wanted that on record again. No, thank you. Councilmember Reagan.
Thank you. So on finance, we actually didn't have our meeting this month, but we're planning it within the next few weeks. For grants, we met with Laura and Sergio from Millennium. This was actually my first meeting as well as Councilwoman McNamara's on grants. Our primary focus was to understand the process for applying for the grants, submitting grants, and which grants we wanted to go after. So some of them that we were looking at, that we want them to look at, is the waterfront grants for improvement of the bulkhead, if there's anything out there, infrastructure for water and sewer improvements, fire gear. We still have a grant application that's pending since December of 2021. It's a FEMA assistance to firefighters grant. That's a replacement for the SCBA units. And Laura advised that we're not expecting an answer anytime soon. It could be the end of the year or beginning of next, but we'll keep following up on that. Any open space grants for recreation and parks. Also EV, electric vehicles, possibly a charging station, and Laura had advised in 2018 we put in an application, but nothing came out of it at that time, possibly as there were not as many electrical vehicles as there are now. So she's looking at those. There's also two grants that actually we have submitted in September. One was the NJDEP for Natural Climate Solutions Grant. That's for the Chingarora Creek Restoration Project, and that's almost $800,000 that we requested. That's for winter of 2023, possibly. There's also the Monmouth County Open Space Program Grant for Cedar Street. That's $100,000 that we actually have submitted. We won't know anything until the winter of 2023. For NPP, the work was completed on October 7th at the waterfront for landscaping, and it looks beautiful if anybody's taken a ride down there or walked by there. There's the decorative street signs, phase 1. The product was delivered to the vendor. Date for install is going to be early November. Installation of banners at the waterfront parking area. This is for parking banners. The hardware and banners will be installed on existing light poles at the waterfront park, locations to test before to make sure that they're sustainable. The hardware is on order, on back order actually for a few weeks. The municipal parking improvement for the small Main Street lot, 70 parallel parking lines and 5 no parking markings will be painted. They're coordinating with Trevor and Jay. I think they're both reviewing that. And that's all I have right now. Oh, wait, one more. The street light for the LED. We're waiting for a re-quote because it came in higher than expected. 18 have been completed. We have 54 to be done. That's, with the new LED lights.
Thank you. As a follow-up to that, I was asked in the KBBC meeting last week what the status is about finishing the Old Glory parking lot, since KBBC put the funding for the patchwork last year. Part of the line striping process for MPP was a guarantee back to KBBC that when the Main Street lot got restriped, the full lot would get restriped. So you're only mentioning the, or is that both lots?
That's just the small one.
Yeah, the vendor is we're waiting for a quote from the vendor for the bigger lot.
And are they going to fix the problems that have since?
There's additional repair work that needs to be done as well.
And is the funding allocated? I mean, before I start hearing about banners at the waterfront, that I'd rather the parking be taken care of. So is that in the works, and is the funding already allocated?
It's in the works. I'm not sure the exact allocation.
I'll follow up on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Pepperoni?
Thank you. For the fire department, they had 35 runs for the month of September, 331 for the year. For first aid, they had 122 for the month, 1,122 for the year. For the Board of Health, we've taken in $1,351. For Union Beach's registrar report, we collected $120. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go on to my committee report and the mayor's updates, I just want to make an announcement that there will be a closed session, part of our council meeting later on this evening. And there is a strong or possibility that action will be taken after the closed session. So I know last time we said that a few times, but it wasn't heard for some reason. So I will say it again, nice and loud. There is a possibility that there will be action taken after a closed session this evening. In regards to the committees I serve on that haven't already been reported on, for the library, Council President McNamara attended the meeting as I begin to phase some of the roles I serve on to designees so people have a better background on items starting at the beginning of the year. So thank you, Council President, for filling me in. For the Mayor's Wellness Campaign, we were selected to contribute to a piece in their most recent newsletter, which was just recently released, which is exciting, since we're one of the newest municipalities that have been accepted into that program. And we'll also be participating at a session at the New Jersey League of Municipalities Conference next month. I attended the monthly meeting for the American Legion, and I will be assisting with them making the flyer for Veterans Day, like I've done for the last several years. But for the record, it will be the standard time of 11:11 on 11/11 in front of the American Legion. I would like to extend a sincere moment of gratitude to all that assisted in Chief Lagers and Chief Lagers' family with making sure every detail was coordinated collaboratively with Chief Torres and the Homedale Police Chief to make sure Chief Timothy Lager received top-level funeral services. The governing body and Administrator Delaney have personally donated funds to purchase a bench, which will be dedicated to Chief Timothy Lager by year's end. Many people are aware that Keyport High School student football player was injured during a game recently. He has a long road of recovery ahead of him, but his family is hopeful that he'll make a full recovery soon. Since he is a minor, I did clear it with his family today that I could make a public request for well wishes to continue. Therefore, I ask that everyone please continue to keep Logan Blanks in your thoughts and continue to send get well wishes. Also, this serves as a reminder to please support our youth within our community and attend their sporting games when you have a chance to cheer them on. This evening I was at the Keyport High School soccer game with a total of 20 other people. It's always nice to see the turnout for football, but there's plenty of other sports games that people can attend as well. people have known for the last decade that I've attended games before I even served on this governing body. Football games, field hockey games, soccer games, baseball games. You don't need children to go and cheer on our students that are trying to be athletes and accomplish academics. So that's my plug on please support our youth and our community. I attended the KBBC meeting last week. Councilman McDermott already gave the updates on upcoming events. The board did finally receive recommendations and voted on an auditor. We were told that it's going to begin immediately and remind them that it is 6 months late. It was approved by the board to hire a company for a tree and the wreaths to go on 30 lampposts throughout the municipality. The install will begin on November 11th and will remain up until near the middle of January. A final cost benefit analysis for the iHeart Keyport Day in regards to the borough budget and resources is still being finalized. Currently, the total manpower hours put in to the event that have been calculated from an event review to several changes to the actual event are over 70 manpower hours by borough personnel, all of which were no charge to KBBC. Several of those manpower hours were for police prior to the event, during the event, and after the event. The police are seen in many people's photos that have been posted, and also in the video that KBBC posted themselves. Those are the officers that were in uniform and visible. It should be noted that it doesn't include all the police resources that go into an event. The police department has always been, and in my opinion, always will, support the borough and our businesses. I find it discouraging that this is not the first time the borough supports fully a nonprofit, aka a non-taxing entity, event at the taxpayer's expense in a large and costly way, but then receives only negative feedback from the event coordinators. Without any acknowledgement of the shortcomings and issues that the nonprofit causes the borough. So I would just like to go on record to clarify the police were present through, before, and after the entire event. On another note, 10 years ago next week, we all began hearing about a tropical storm named Sandy, which soon then we learned it was known to become Hurricane Sandy. I was approached by a student at Keene University in spring of 2013. I just forwarded this to next year. To be part of an oral history project for relief efforts that I was participating with on an ongoing basis in the Bayshore. That project later became a webpage called Staring Out to Sea, and the professor later turned it into a book, which was just recently released. Because it focuses entirely on the Bayshore, I have purchased copies of the book, and I'll be donating one to the library and one to the Keyport Historical Society. Next week at Keene University, we'll be holding a panel session, and I've been asked to be one of the panelists to talk about relief efforts after disaster. Also want to give an update on New Jersey State Health Benefit Plan rates. For those that have not heard this, in the state of New Jersey, the proposed and technically approved rate increase to the state health benefit plan is 22.8% increase to the premium. That will be at the cost of the taxpayers as well as the employees, because the employees pay a percentage as well, and their increase will go up as well. I have brought this to the CFO's attention as well as the Finance Committee attention several times. There needs to be an analysis as to what we could do moving forward if we want to remain in the state health benefit plan or if there are other or better options. But a 22.8% increase is unfathomable when the amount of reserves that are in the current state budget. I honestly don't even know where that comes into calculations for the raises that we just issued one of our labor contracts, whether that's even going to put them back, never mind forward. So I'm still waiting for those calculations to be given to me. I've asked a few times. So I really just think it's important that everyone is aware that this is really a costly issue to the state of New Jersey. The state employees, through some rounds of unions, including CWA, which ironically I'm a member of because I work at Keene University, they were able to get the governor to decrease the percent increase to 3% for only state employees. I can tell you I am a state employee and I don't agree with that. You either make the change or you don't make the change. So they have left all municipalities that are in the state plan as well as counties that are in the state plan to stay at the 22.8% increase. So I will be attending a rally tomorrow because I don't believe in that. So I will see what that does, but I'm also waiting for guidance or commentary from the Finance Committee on that. Volunteer application citizen leadership forum, I asked at the last meeting to make sure all the council members know, to let their committee members know, what boards they serve on, if their term is up. Hopefully you've all done that, because we're expecting them all back by November 1st, so that they can be reviewed as to how hard we have to push for people to fill those forms out. And that's just another plug, since we have a nice room full of people, that one of the biggest issues in the municipality was that it was, like a brotherhood in Keyport for a long time, and we were not following the state statute from 2009, like most of the rest of the state was, and we were not adhering to the fact that the clerk has to keep a registry of anyone that's interested in serving on a board, a commission, or a committee, and we were just appointing, when I say we, I don't mean I, others were just appointing their friends nonstop. So that is one thing we have turned around the last 3 years, and we are proud of that. So please make sure that those forms get turned in so that they're in the database. And then the last piece before we move on to the meeting is a reminder that it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. In case the light on the gazebo isn't bright enough, I figured I'd wear a nice bright jacket to remind you. Last year I wore the hair extensions, but I couldn't really see them, so went with a bright jacket this time. Okay. Next, does any council member have anything they need to table or pull before we open to the public? Okay. Can I have a motion to open to the public, and this is only for resolutions and communications?
Motion.
This is not for the full agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, any members of the public have, and for anyone that's in the back, there are 3 or 4 seats up here. Anyone from the public have any questions regarding resolutions or communications? Ms. Mastropiero?
Danielle Mastropiero, 378 Atlantic Street. I'm just curious as to what the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program entails.
I'll defer to Jay and explain that. I think they're here, tired to hear my voice right now.
Sure. First of all, the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program is a New Jersey Department of Transportation funded program for transportation alternatives. It is primarily, in our case, we've used it in the past for pedestrian improvements. That is likewise the plan that is proposed here is specifically for pedestrian improvements along Broad Street as well as streetscape improvements. Additional details will be provided by the engineer, but essentially this is the first step in a several-year process that includes not only the improvements but also the design elements as well, which is an unusual component for most New Jersey transportation grants.
Mr. Graham? Our meetings are going to be 20 minutes shorter now because there's no Met scores. Our meetings are going to be 20 minutes shorter now because they don't have any Met scores, which is unfortunate.
That still has a terrific year, though. Matt, I'm with Jay Graham Jr., 22 St. Regis Place. Good evening, Madam Mayor, the Borough Council.
Good evening.
Just like you all to please explain Resolution 2022-220.
So this is a water application for Hudson Point at Keyport LLC. It's the redevelopment project on Manchester. They need a DEP permit for the water main extension that's proposed as part of the project, and this is the endorsing of the application by the Borough Council.
Why would they need a permit? What, because of the environment and stuff?
It's for actually, they have to extend the water main to get water to their site, so they're going to be extending the water main along Maple Place from Atlantic Street to their site. So anytime you exceed a certain number of units in a residential project, you need to get DEP approval for the water main extension. So because of the number of units, they need a permit from the DEP.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Mr. Muller?
John Morella, 34 Broad Street. Under communications,
The employee that's resigning from the Department of Public Works, is that the same employee who was hired a month ago?
Yes.
Thank you.
If I can just clarify, that's an employee that we changed from part-time to full-time a month ago. We didn't just hire him, he was with us.
Full-time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify for the record in case
Gotcha.
anyone misses that. Any other members of the public? Mr. Lee?
Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Regarding resolution 2022-208, which approved a highway district cannabis resolution, and it was approved at the last council meeting around midnight. And so what was so time critical about that resolution that it couldn't be held to a council meeting and with the public opportunity to give input?
Just for the clarification, it wasn't at the last meeting. And what was the date of that meeting, Jeff?
It was at the 9/22
September 20th.
meeting. I'm sorry, 9/22 meeting.
That's okay. It was mentioned at the beginning of the meeting and in the middle of the meeting and prior to going into closed session that there could be action taken afterwards.
And so the meeting was over at 10 o'clock. The public had to wait around 2 hours to comment. What was so time critical about that? There's no building constructed. It's going to be a significant amount of time before there's going to be a place where this license can be operated. What was so critical that you couldn't hold it for public comment at the next meeting?
There wasn't a public comment at the end of the closed session anyway.
That's my point. You didn't allow any public comment.
Viva had plenty of public comment about the application process in general, including an entire Saturday afternoon where this room was filled with just the topic of a public meeting. So we made sure that the public had a chance to say anything they wanted on any application that's been put to the Borough of Keyport. So don't say that we have not provided public comment.
That public comment was a significant amount of time ago. And this was an application for a site where there's no building. And there's no time critical issue. You are abusive.
You can say that, Mr. Lane, that's fine, but it was on the agenda and it was talked about that it was going to have action taken that evening, and there is a public court portion at the end of that evening that anyone can bring up any matter that they wish to. So there was definitely full transparency. Continue, please.
Yeah, at midnight. Why was the entity that's from Bloomfield selected for this cannabis license?
Public Works, Ms. London?
Again, no opportunity for public comment or to ask a question.
Excuse me, there is no restriction or prohibition regarding where the entity lives. Most of, if not all of the entities who have submitted an application created an LLC organization for purposes of operating a cannabis business. So you can't, there's no restriction that, or requirement that the person live in Keyport in order to receive support.
I wasn't asking whether there was a restriction. I was asking why was the candidate from Bloomfield selected to operate in our town? In our town. Now, Resolution 219, which is for the Transportation Alternative Program, that's on Broad Street Safety Initiatives. Can you tell me, Broad Street just got paved, we're striping the street, what additional work are we looking to accomplish?
Okay.
Yes, the proposed application is for pedestrian improvements, sidewalks primarily. As you are aware, the Broad Street is a county road, and while there have been a number of pedestrian improvements in terms of sidewalks, primarily handicap accessibility at corners. There are other portions of the street that are in need of repair, replacement, and upgrade.
So this is for sidewalks?
Primarily, streetscape and sidewalks.
It's interesting. When the sidewalks were replaced on First Street, the residents had to pay for them. I'm delighted we're going to get some money. But we have lots of sidewalks on First Street that are in unbelievably bad condition. So I hope we'll work that problem. Resolution 2022-220, which is the water main. And I think you clarified that the streets that are going to be disturbed is Maple Place between Atlantic and Manchester.
That's correct. The water main is going to loop between Atlantic Street and Fulton Street. And the
And is the developer contributing to any of that cost?
developer is installing the water main at its cost.
All along that street?
Correct.
The percentage increase for the non-union employees of 2.75%, starting in January 21, which is going to be a nice bonus, and 3% starting in January 2023. How are those percentages generated? What are they based on?
I'm sorry, which one were you referring to? I didn't hear the beginning part of that one, sorry.
The resolution for non-union employees
Oh, got it, okay, got it.
delineates the percentages increases.
Got it. I wasn't sure which resolution you mentioned. Jay?
Yes, the percentages that you've referenced are in line with the recently concluded collective bargaining negotiations with two of the borough's unions.
So the pattern from the collective bargaining is being reflected for non-union employees.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the closed session that you're going into tonight has, again, a cannabis item. Is the resolution already crafted?
There's a form of resolution, no one's name is in it, because that's a council decision that they would be making if they chose to do so.
And is there going to be any absolute urgency that we have to vote on this resolution tonight?
No one said we are, I said there's a possibility. And if the council comes to a conclusion after tonight's closed session, then yeah, there will be a decision.
Well, I asked the council to be more open, to be more transparent, and not vote on the resolution at midnight tonight. It's not going to be a time issue. Just come back to the next council meeting with the resolution prepared and not voted on. Please be transparent and do that. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Any other members of the public? Seeing no hands, can I have a motion to close the public?
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Are there any questions by the governing body for resolutions 2022-217 through 2022-223? Seeing no commentary, is there a motion to approve 2022-217 through 2022-223?
Motion. Second.
Have a roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Pacheco. Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Aronio.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a public hearing and adoption of ordinance number 2022-22, which is a bond ordinance to finance the cost of improvements related to the Broad Street Cemetery Store emergency repair. Can you please read that by title, Michelle?
This is a bond ordinance providing for various water and sewerage system improvements by the Borough of Keyport, appropriating $160,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $151,000 bonds or notes of the borough to finance part of the cost thereof.
Thank you. Can I have a motion from the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any members of the public have any commentary on this public hearing? Mr. Morello?
Tom Morello, 34 Broad Street. Now, I understand the nature of an emergency that transpired on Broad Street. I understand what caused the emergency. Did we hire the contractor, or did the county?
We did.
We did.
Well, there were two different things, just want to clarify.
I understand
So at the same time, simultaneously, there was a stormwater issue, and then there was the sewer line issue, and then through all of that, there was also a water line issue. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that there were multiple contractors dealing with the same job site.
Okay. So exactly then, what is the responsibility of the county? As homeowners and business owners are responsible from the curb in, and that being a county road, the county is responsible for the curb out. On Broad Street, we had an emergency, and after the digging started, we created, contractor or whoever, created another emergency, which then caused us to absorb $160,000 locally through this bond ordinance. Is the county going to participate with us since
So
it's a county road?
it actually started as a stormwater issue, a stormwater line issue, and when they were going to be opening things up to make the repairs for the stormwater, it was also discovered because the engineer had a camera go out and check the status of the sewer line at that same location. So these were all self-incurred because of the status of the sewer line at that place, at that same location, which if you're in front of Broad Street Dining, you'll see the three different, and then you'll see the two, one of them actually, we just put in the new outfall, correct? As part of this project. And since that was all being done, the contractor was already there, there was also a missing mechanism for the restaurant Old Glory. So that was all done at the same time.
Yeah, there, as it's been referenced, there's a lot going on in that very small area. What the actual cause was, certainly what brought our attention to Broad Street to begin with was what I would call the partial collapse of the stormwater system, which appears to be primarily the county's responsibility in that area. Broad Street is a county road, although the initial area where the problem occurred is in a pipe that extends through to Division Street. So there is some joint, I'll say, responsibility by both the borough as well as the county. The determination was made that the county would address the stormwater issues, and whatever was responsible for the sanitary sewer. And then while the work was being done, again, all of this was in anticipation, or had already been previously scheduled for the road to be resurfaced. It became one of those might as well, no sense to not address some of the water issues that frankly we would have let go, but for the fact that, the trench was being open-ended. So to answer your question, there has not been a final determination made as to the ultimate responsibility, but at the end of the day, the sanitary sewer line is the borough's. We made the arrangements to have it completed. Discussions with what transpires from this point forward are still ongoing with the county.
So this bond ordinance just references the sanitary sewer?
The sanitary sewer and the related water work that was done, not any stormwater impacts.
Thank you.
And that just, maybe I should ask the engineer if there was any misstatement made. I think we all have the same understanding.
Yeah, that's correct, and we are still in conversation with the county about the storm pipe that goes to Division Street to try to figure out where that pipe actually goes, because we're not quite sure at this time.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Okay.
Albert J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. This resolution here and stuff like that, you know, of course, since the county is partially responsible for this and stuff. Are the taxpayers in the borough, they're gonna be left holding the bag on this?
It was part of the infrastructure repairs. This is going to be a separate bond ordinance, and I'll let Jay explain the payback table for the bond.
Yeah, this is, technically, this is a water and sewer bond ordinance.
Okay.
So while it's essentially the same people will be paying it, but technically it's paid through the water and sewer utility revenues. So there is no direct taxpayer impact in terms of what we discuss as tax impact. But certainly the ratepayers, which are also taxpayers, are, this will be included and is reflected as part of the expense of the utility operation.
Just don't want to see the taxpayers be left holding the bag completely on this and stuff like that. It wouldn't be right for the taxpayers in the borough. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, Mr. Lee?
Trevor, you indicated that there's a stormwater pipe that's
Only because we're in a public
Hearing, you have to state your name for the record, please.
Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport.
Thank you.
Mapping of the stormwater system in the borough of Keyport. I thought the mapping showed that stormwater pipe went down Broad Street all the way to Birch. And now you're saying it goes down to Division?
There's actually two pipes. There's the, I believe it's a 24, 30-inch RCP pipe that goes to the inlet, that goes all the way down to the outfall at the boat ramp.
Right.
And then there's also on the southern inlet, there's a large brick chamber that heads underneath the diner that we're not quite sure what that is.
So there's
Two outfalls, so there's three inlets and two outfall pipes.
are both of them on your mapping?
Only the one that goes down Broad Street.
Okay. Now, the Division Street stormwater pipe used to have a brick, but that's all been replaced down there.
Portions of the brick have been replaced, but there are still portions of the brick culvert outside of Division Street.
Are there many portions of the culvert on Division Street stormwater? Wow.
Any other members of the public? Seeing no hands, can I have a motion to close the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any commentary from the governing body? Seeing there's none, is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 2022-22?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Arania.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as adopted?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have an introduction of an ordinance, amending salary ordinance. Michelle, can you read that by title, please?
This is an ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, establishing salaries and wages for designated employees.
Thank you. Is there a motion to introduce?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Arania.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion to authorize the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in the Asbury Park Press for a public hearing.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain or no? Next, we have communications by consent. We have one for approval and one for receive and file. Are there any questions by the governing body? Seeing I hear none, is there approval to receive and file and communications number 1 and 2?
Motion.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Arania.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
And I ask for a table of the September 2022 closed session minutes to be tabled to after closed session.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a a motion to approve the September 20, 2022 regular meeting minutes?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have reports for the municipal clerk report for September 2022, tax order sewer collectors report for September 2022, Board of Health Treasurers report for September 2022, Building Department monthly report for September 2022, and municipal court monthly report for September 2022. Have a motion to have them received and filed?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I jumped that second. Lori, Councilman Davidson did seconded. So then all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any no or abstains? Now, as a record, the following resolutions were adopted in open session following a closed session portion of the council meeting. Resolution 2022-208, and resolution number 2022-216. Those have been listed on the agenda for record-keeping purposes moving forward. No action needs to be taken because they was already taken during those meetings.
Mayor. There have been some comments about transparency on the cannabis resolution, so I just wanted to go on the record with some comments, if everybody's open to that. So the work subcommittee and governing body were tasked with was taken extremely seriously. I'm a current member of the cannabis subcommittee and was also a member of the prior ad hoc committee that worked on the ordinance. In addition to forming a subcommittee, there were discussions about the application process itself, what forms, procedures, considerations, input, review, public process, public comment, and so much more would be needed to develop and collect, and that was without the guidance of the state. We developed a few forms for the committee to use after much deliberation. One with criteria that the committee could use to guide its evaluation and review and to help compare and contrast the criteria in addition to the application and support document presented. One for interviews with the applicants. As we proceeded with our review, we determined that at least one of the criteria on the form involving criminal background checks would be better suited to be addressed by the CRC. So that item on the form was no longer part of the evaluation. The evaluation form also included as a criteria item the application itself. So our evaluation clearly took into consideration the applicant's responses and application document submission information. In March of this year, we opened the process to accept applications for Class 5 retail cannabis business. The ordinance had been adopted in November of 21 and permitted one Class 5 in each of two districts, the Highway Corridor and the General Commercial District. The names of the districts alone indicate that there are differences in those locations. In its deliberations, the subcommittee was guided by the evaluation criteria, the applications themselves, interviews with the applicants, and of course the May 7th public hearing. The two council members that were part of the subcommittee shared the determination of what facility they deemed most favorable based on these factors. The council voted 5-1 recently to issue a resolution of support to Blaze Cannabis, one of the three Highway Corridor applicants. Today I want to take a few minutes to review some of the many steps and considerations involved in that decision. Initially, the members of the subcommittee received and reviewed the applications. As we met to evaluate the merits of each, we also acknowledged that some of the criteria would be reviewed in much more detail at the state level, allowing us to look closer at the local pieces. Presentations by all applicants to the subcommittee were scheduled and then followed by a public meeting on May 7th, when all applicants had the opportunity to present to the complete governing body and the public. At regular intervals during the following months, the committee would provide updates to the public, either through committee reports or other agenda listings, such as old or new business relating to the timing, and were updates from the NJCRC. The subcommittee continued their discovery and on June 3rd shared the complete application submissions, redacted as necessary, with the governing body, enabling review in advance of the June 21st closed session at which the subcommittee would begin sharing any updates. At a subsequent subcommittee meeting, it was decided to address the Highway Corridor license applications first. A closed session was requested for the September 20th council meeting. Governing body members were asked to review each of the 3 highway corridor applications in detail. A copy of the evaluation guidance form was also provided to each member with the instructions that they use the form to help guide in their review. It was also recommended that they drive past the locations to familiarize themselves with the sites, particularly based on the type of facility that was being proposed by the applicants as shown in their application. In closed session, the 3 applications being considered were discussed. During that time, the 3 sites were pulled up on a monitor via Google Maps to confirm that all governing body members were identifying the same locations. For clarification, some of the things that I personally went over as we review this as one of the people on the subcommittee, I think a lot of what came down to it for me that I tried to stress had to do with location. And the location that was chosen has a shoulder to it versus one of the other locations that the Hannah Grove. The entrance is right off the highway. There is no shoulder. So one of the things that was really important to me was just traffic flow and people being able to get safely into the property. I felt that both of those candidates were extremely qualified, brought a lot of experience to the table. There was a 3rd candidate, and that was Golden State, which was Garden State, sorry, located in the Tricom building on Beer Street and the highway. That really did not have highway access, kind of had people looping in through a neighborhood. So safety of entry was an important one, and where things were going. I encourage other members to participate if they want to go over any of the things that swayed them one way or the other. Both Blaze and KGNJ would need to go before the planning board, as they go further with it as well. But I think as I said, the deciding factor in large part had to do with the location and the access and the safety of people getting in and out of that location. So I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything, but we just wanted to be transparent about what had happened over all these months with that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. With Council President McNamara stated, a lot of the conversation and determination went in for so many factors on the local level. Location was definitely one of them, and I agree with Councilmember McNamara. Everybody was very qualified in this realm. But for me, it also came down to the location. I've driven that highway. I cut in. I tried to make the parking lot, and with the way traffic moves, I felt that it wasn't a safe location for Kona. The one on Beer Street, in the Tricon building, I also felt that too much traffic would be going through our residential streets, and it wasn't really a highway location for access on and off. So that is where my decision lies, but I assure you all that it is not by any of us taken lightly. We give it serious consideration, time, effort, and that's my statement on what I want to see.
And I'm in agreement with everything said, and as a person who's been on KVBC and has supported businesses since 2019, and well before this as a resident, since 2008, this was an extremely difficult decision. And we took a lot of things into consideration, and to me it was really up to do that with public safety location and opportunity to ensure that it is done in the betterment for Keyport, long term. This is a very strong decision that impacts us for the legacy thereafter. Whether we're on council or not, this is something that's going to continue forward for the next forevermore. So do not take anything lightly that we did not consider everything at all. And I would agree all candidates were equal, and thank you for even considering Keyport. I think that was actually an amazing fact that we had such really strong candidates. So I want to thank every candidate, whatever the process is of the 7. I want to thank you for even considering Keyport.
Okay. Go on to new business. We received communication yesterday. I'll read into record. It will be on the next council meeting agenda to ratify and consent, but according to state ordinance, it has to be in record within 30 days, so I'm going to read it into record. From Keyport Fire Patrol. Dear Mayor and Council,
Dear Mayor and Council, kindly be advised that in accordance with the current ordinance of this borough regarding the Keyport Fire Department, the members of Keyport Fire Patrol have voted Charles R. Flager as chief of the department for the remainder of the calendar year 2022. Charles R. Flager served honorably as chief of the Keyport Fire Department for the year 2015 and remains active in the department since that time. Thank you respectfully. Captain Andy Kilroy and President Tom Fowler.
can you just please reference who was CC'd on that?
Copies were the clerk, Board of Fire Chiefs, Jay Kovacs, KFD Secretary, and members of Keyport Fire Patrol. And this is dated October 16, 2022.
Thank you. Communications will move forward with the family as to how they would like to proceed with the swearing-in ceremony. Another piece of new business, I mentioned it earlier in my report. I just would rather have it on record with a vote from the council that there's no objection to KBBC having the tree installed in the mini park and the 30 lamp posts, which will each have 2 wreaths on it. So it will be 60 wreaths installed, and the color scheme that they chose for the holiday season is blue and silver. If the company still had that available, that was their top choice. So if there's any objection, so can I have a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any no or abstain? Thank you. That way it's on record moving forward. And then the next item on new business is listed on the agenda for Matt Ratz Insurance.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have communication from the Recreation Committee to Mayor and Council requesting that the borough sponsor the insurance for the Matt Rat Wrestling Group, as has been done at points in the past, although I don't believe it was done the last round. Matt Rats are represented by Al Smith, who have requested insurance sponsorship for the 2022-2023 season. And that the program runs for grades 2 through 8 for co-ed children within our community, runs from approximately November 15th through February. They meet at the Keyport High School on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. And all coaches, it says, have had criminal background checks completed. And last season, the team had 35 children on their roster. So I know that the last time this came up, there were a couple things back and forth as to whether or not this is something that we can do in terms of providing the insurance. I think last time they ended up going through, PTA sponsored them. It's not necessarily a borough-run organization, so putting it out there for any comments. I'd like to be able to bring back to them, but the last time we did have concerns about not being fully run through the borough. If anybody has anything I can bring back to them, I'm more than happy to do that.
What is the cost for that, Kathleen?
I don't even know. Do we have any idea what the insurance?
Yeah, in general, while there's no specific or individual insurance premium to the borough for this, because if it's to be conducted as a borough activity, then it is covered through our membership in the Monmouth County Joint Insurance Fund. And our assessment of premium is based on the totality of our operations. There are no component costs associated with that. If the council is considering approving this, it should carry with it a condition that all operations should be must be in accordance with the guidelines of the borough's membership in the Monmouth County Joint Insurance Fund.
And what that means, so how do they clarify whether that this is a borough event or not? So if we don't handle the registration, we don't set the pricing, we don't inspect the mats, we don't have anything to do with the uniforms or the coach's background check, how do we classify this as a borough event?
Well, and that's the question for me. I'm not sure what's been done in the past as far as how that has been done. Typically, the insurance is provided for operations that are conducted by borough employees or volunteer staff. And that is usually evidenced by the registration as an indication that it is in fact a borough operation or activity.
So what if we brought it under the borough, like something like for yoga, for instance, where they came and they paid the borough, and then we used, like if we did as a borough entity of using the school for the activity, and then all registration would come to the borough, would that suffice for the gym?
Well, that is the more, I would say, the typical way that the activity and program would be functioned. And the example you use is a good example of that. Although, to clarify, the summer waterfront yoga and Tai Chi, we actually contract with a vendor, and they provide us with the certificate of insurance.
Okay, well, maybe that was a bad example. And what about the yoga classes at the senior center?
Again, those are conducted as senior programs. They're in our facility, so it is covered by our insurance because it's under our direct supervision.
So I believe, I think it was last year, what happened was, I think through the PTA, they picked up the insurance and they kept it all over there. I don't think we were involved at all. So, you know, just kind of throwing it out there.
Are they asking us to carry the insurance or just pay for the insurance that they already carry? Because that's two totally different things. Are they just asking us if we can sponsor them and pay for their insurance, like a donation?
So in the past, there was historical, I think in 2019, there was a past events where the rec committee, so they actually went on, the borough paid for their, they went under the borough insurance.
What would you say?
Now, whether that was supposed to be happening or not, that's a whole other.
I thought they had like their own.
No, it was always under, they would actually be added in as under the borough insurance.
Would it be cheaper if they got their own and we just paid for it, or is it cheaper to put them on ours to cover it?
Well, okay, I just have some questions. Are they actually nonprofit? Like, what's the status and all that stuff? Like, I don't even know. I'm just asking.
Can I ask for a follow-up meeting maybe with Council President McNamara, Mr. Delaney, and Mr. Smith to take place? And I would also request Councilmember Davidson be invited to that meeting as well. And if you could just provide an update at the next meeting. Thank you. Next, we have unfinished business. We have Bethany Manor Pilot Agreement Ordinance. Council President McNamara, do you have any updates for that?
No, I know we're scheduling a meeting with people who fall under the Perth Amboy program within the next few weeks. There's really no significant updates to this at all. I mean, we still have, you know, various issues over there with the building itself. The Perth Amboy situation currently, I think, will cover about 150 people out of 180. So we still have a problem with a good 30 people that would not be covered under either the per diem boy agreement for the other one that was in place. So there should be another meeting for those residents within the next 2 weeks. So I hope to have more updates, but we continue to have problems over the facility itself with elevators and things like that. So we are continuing to explore it, but we're not close to being finished. We really need 100% people involved in the facility, and there's still a good 30, 40 people that would be discluded, it looks like.
Any follow-up to that?
Yes, I've spent quite a bit of time looking at all the various documents, and I provided counsel, it was a week or so ago, with a bullet summary from the beginning to where we are today, to kind of guide you and tell you what the issues are, because we have like apples and oranges. You know, we have the ordinance that was initially introduced to extend the term of the pilot, and then all the issues started coming up regarding the tenant issues and increases in rent and things of that sort. So, in looking back at all the pilot documents and the requirements and the various HUD programs, whether it's Section 8, 202 program, it's my recommendation that the ordinance that was initially introduced be withdrawn and revised. I want to make sure that language is in there to ensure that the units, all the units, remain affordable. And I think it says that indirectly in the documents, but I wanted to make sure that it's clear, and by amending the ordinance itself to specifically make it a condition of the extension, if you so choose to go down that route, that any extension is subject to that the units, all the units remain affordable. Doing that, well, you can't make that change without you withdrawing, because it's a substantial change. So you have to kind of start again. So reintroduce the new ordinance and then go through the public hearing process. But I think it's a change that protects the building units that are there and to ensure that they remain affordable. So that would be our recommendation.
So is your guidance for us to be able tonight to be able to withdraw that introduction, or do we have to have that listed?
I think you can amend the agenda to add it, and someone make a motion to withdraw the ordinance that is currently sitting on the table, so to speak. It hasn't moved since its introduction, but I think the amending it helps the borough tremendously.
So we don't have that ready for now. So for now, the guidance could be that we just withdraw the current pending public hearing and withdraw the introduction.
And then the introduction will be at the next meeting.
If the information's ready.
If that is the one.
Right. Is that any pleasure of the governing body to withdraw the introduction?
Yes.
Is there a motion for that?
Motion to withdraw the current ordinance? Yeah.
Introduction.
Introduction?
Is there a second?
Second.
Take a vote. The old one?
Do you need the actual number?
All right, so then on record, we'll just say, first and the second, that it's the Bethany Manor pilot agreement ordinance introduction that was introduced in August or July. July. Roll call.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson,
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara,
Yes.
Councilmember Aronio,
Yes.
and Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Hey, Mayor, just if I may, for the record, that was ordinance 2022-16 that was introduced on July 3rd.
Thank you.
Go on to the list update. Chief Torres.
We're currently finished our application for the ALPR grant, so we're in the process of it. We've asked for several pole cameras to be put in, so we're waiting for the outcome of that. No other updates at this time.
Thank you. Michelle, anything with the election? The election?
Nothing. Today's the last day to register to vote.
Okay. Thanks.
Just closed session items.
Mayor, just one point of a question regarding the previous meeting. We've had in place the financing together with the state grant for the planned road construction of 7th, 8th, and Fulton, as well as Butler and East 3rd. We're to the point where the plans have been submitted to the New Jersey Department of Transportation, and those comments have been received back. So we're positioned or to the point of scheduling a public session for the residents of those streets. And we'd like to do that within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I don't know if there's a preference in the governing body of doing it on a separate night. In the past, we have done these as afternoon, early evening sessions from either 5 to 7 or 6 to 8. And this provides an opportunity for the residents to hear a presentation from the borough's engineer that details the nature and extent of the improvements, and just provides information to the residents. Again, we had originally identified a potential date as next Tuesday or the following Tuesday before a council meeting. And I know that there is not a requirement for the governing body to attend, but in the past, many of the governing body members have attended, and so we would notice this as a potential for a public session, although no formal action being taken.
So if you want to circulate email to the governing body, these that you listed, and then have everyone respond to him.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know that my wife was on. If you can put those dates in an email to the governing body, and then if everyone can reply to him tomorrow, and then we'll move forward with getting the announcements made in the public notice mentioned. Does that work?
That works, thank you.
Okay. Trevor?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple items, the detour for the New Jersey DOT project for the bridge replacement over Route 35, the detour plan is supposed to go into effect on October 28th. So again, it's the detour that will detour traffic from the eastbound direction to Keyport Homedale Road. I spoke to the county about several items. One was the four-way stops. The county is going to endorse the four-way stop request at Green Grove and 2nd and Green Grove and 3rd. They are not endorsing the four-way stops at Atlantic and 1st and Broad and 1st. They're going to be giving us reports on those. This is just a meeting with them, so I don't have the reports yet, but that was their first reports on those. Jay indicated about the DOT projects. I've also been meeting, again, with the county about storm sewer. I do have 2 additional items that we've added to the list. One is, there's a pipe settled at Maple and Beers. I took a look at it a couple weeks ago. I sent that over to the county, so we're following up with them for a site visit on that. And then also the storm sewer on the Board of Ed property that is extended from the inlets in Broad Street. We'll be requesting them to go out there and take a look at that pipe and see if they can clean it and TV inspect it for us, either under their services or under a shared services agreement. And lastly, the striping was done for the parking stripes. I know they have one more stripe. It appears that they forgot one. I don't know how that happened, but they have that. And then I spoke to the county about the mid-block crosswalk, which they have no issue with. I'm going to be working with them. They're going to be putting in pedestrian crossing signs at that mid-block crosswalk, so that's going to go a long way to help alert drivers that there's a mid-block crosswalk there. So that will be coming up shortly, probably in November. I'm going to get that installed by a contractor.
And they're going, county's also going to do the 1 by 3rd Street, right?
Yes, one at the library, they striped it, and they didn't stripe it. They spray painted it, they didn't stripe it, so they assured us that that's going to happen too.
I'm sorry, Mayor, just one follow-up. At the last meeting, there was a question concerning the status of the borough's ongoing efforts related to old and abandoned utility wires. Just to report that that's an item that had been tasked to the property maintenance inspector. A formal notice was, a complaint was filed with the Board of Public Utilities regarding those utility wires, and the property maintenance officer is meeting with a representative of one of the utilities early next week.
Thank you. Anything from the governing body? Can I have a motion to open to the public with a max of 5 minutes per person?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any members from the public? Ms. Master.
Dan Shapiro, 378 Oak Street. I've noticed what appears to be an increase in the homeless population. I've seen people by the water. I've seen people on their car on Front Street, on Main Street. I know there's some on the trail. There's actually another spot as well. I'm just wondering if we have any kind of outreach. Do we have any kind of coalition, especially with our non-governmental partners, like the churches and community organizations? I mean, what do we have to connect them to services? Because I know that the county has services available, but, you know, they're not necessarily going to come to us. And it just seems like with this economy, it's a problem that could really increase.
Yes, I can rest assure you that members that are in the community that are, some of them are choosing to remain homeless, and services have been offered to them several times, and some choose to remain that way. But yes, there's often services referred to them.
Okay, when you say that services have been referred, how does that happen? Is it something like somebody calls the police and that gets initiated? I mean, what do we have? Do we have like social workers from the county that come out in the community?
There's different places where we do have social workers. There was one employed at the library. There's one employed at the senior center. Our police department is very active and aware as well, and definitely continually offers and sometimes brings them to the services so that they can actually meet with social workers or what have you.
But is it mostly us waiting for them to come to us? I mean, I'm still
No.
confused. Okay, so we do send people out into the community regularly?
Our police department is out in the community on a regular basis. I've also spoken with some of the members of the homeless, that are, I should say, residents, or depends on which way you want to word it. But there's more out there than you think than what you see. I can assure you that 10 years ago this week I was living out of my car. So.
Chief, were you going to say something about that?
Do you want me to comment? Sure. Okay. I just wanted to answer your question about who's available. There's plenty of county resources that are available. There is a big disconnect, and that's nothing that of the borough's responsibility. There's a big disconnect into getting the mental health crisis, period. But each individual that you see out, different circumstance. They're not all in one space. I don't want you to categorize them in all one space, because some people choose to free roam and other people have a bad circumstance. Others yet have to, mental health is the way. Others have tried social services and have elected to leave the program or not cooperate with whatever program they've been placed in by the state. So each person has a different circumstance, and we treat each one differently. Our officers have what's called crisis intervention training. So they're also given through the classes tons of resources that we can apply. However, in the state of New Jersey, there is no guardianship, or it's very hard for the courts to get involved to force someone to get certain treatments. So there's a process for each individual.
Yeah, and I recognize that from working with similar populations. Do we have anything in place to, I mean,
Tons.
issue?
Tons of things in place, but there's each individual. If you're saying in general,
So specifically, my concern was people who might be hesitant to accept help because of their immigration status. Do we have anything that, are there services in place for them?
so what are you saying? Without social security number? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, you can't go to a shelter without ID, and, you know.
There are places
Are they
that
at
you can
risk
go
of-
without identification, but we do not care if you're a citizen or not, nor does, when you talk about mental health, they can't refuse to treat someone because of their citizen status. So that's not a question for us or for the mental health field. That's not a status. As far as social service goes and social security, now we're talking a totally different topic. that's something that you should probably research, you know, through the state or through, but as far as mental health, they would never refuse to, that's not even something that we look at ourselves or the mental health.
Oh, no, I'm just saying people might be afraid that they would get in some kind of trouble with their immigration.
I do communicate with the Hispanic community. We do have different language lines, and if they're afraid, we can easily explain that. You know, we have a very good outreach with the Hispanic-speaking population, but if somebody else feels that, I don't know, you know, other than be open to talk to them, I don't know how we would solve somebody's personal fear of immigration.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Any other members of the public?
I'm Peter Leone, 49 Club Street, Bloomfield. I'm here with some of the members from Blaze, including my son who's a resident of Keyport. I just wanted to thank the council, I wanted to thank the mayor and the borough administrators for their vote of confidence, and we look forward to a long partnership. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Mr. Merlo?
John Morella, 34 Broad Street. I'd like to applaud Mrs. London's recommendation tonight that the council start over. Back in July, after the council made a vote to introduce that ordinance, I said at a public meeting that I would have liked to known how that was even listed on the agenda, and 6 council members didn't even know that that ordinance was going to be proposed until they got their packet.
Or the mayor.
Excuse me?
Or the mayor.
Or the mayor. Everybody, I guess. Well, here's my major concern now, Mrs. London, and you may know this, you may not. I know Kathleen does. Since the council had an opportunity to table that ordinance, there's a lot of things going on over there at the Bethany Manor that aren't helping our seniors. For instance, there hasn't been a DCA inspection in 9 years. Now all of a sudden, there's an inspection going on next week. The elevator problems elevated. Last week there was an elevator evacuation. Now, members in the Bethany Manor are being told, seniors, that they're doing renovations, which is nice. But in the same letter, they're telling those residents in that senior housing property that they may have to relocate for 2 weeks out of their apartment. Now, that scares me because some of them are in their 80s and older, and I don't know where they're going to go. And as the mayor brought up, 10 years ago, Hurricane Sandy, there was a lot of damage at the Leisure Bay apartments, the American Legion, 50 Beers, and they were able to relocate no one. They didn't have to, because the vacancies in their building, they put the residents in there, finished their apartment with the renovations. So I know we have leverage now, I know we do, and I think the recommendation you made tonight is great. And when the ordinance is drafted, I hope that from a legal perspective, we take everything into consideration, that not only if the council does decide to upgrade that pilot program for another 7 or 10 years, that we take into consideration those seniors too in that high-rise. The second thing I have is, this is the 3rd meeting I've brought it up, and I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask the question just so it's on the record. Do we have any information regarding the gas company on Church Street? I still see no application. Just because it's the gas company doesn't mean they get away with things that we wouldn't get away with. They need to make application before this borough. The damage is done. They opened the street. There's a gentleman who wants to build 2 nice single-family homes on Main Street right now. He's been negotiating with Jay and borough officials to try and get him in there. It's in the 2nd year of a 5-year moratorium. Gas company comes in and opens the street in front of Councilman Pepperoni's house 3 weeks after they paved it. And no one's held responsible. This is not right at all. I don't care, you can deem it an emergency, anything you want. Show the proof. Now the street's got yellow paint all over it. Are they gonna make another opening? This needs to be addressed. They need to fill out an application like everybody else for a 3x3 opening and pay their fee, and then the borough can say, you open the street, you're gonna pave curb to curb. We just paved the street, we paved it, taxpayers paid a lot of money, and let's move forward. But this is the third meeting now. That's 6 weeks. We need to write the gas company, or we need to send someone out there and get this done. The last item is, Trevor, the Broad Street pavement job. Is, after the county paved, is there still like a punch list? There's a couple.
I'm gonna send them a bunch of, I know they paved over a couple manholes, some potting water at 2 of the curb ramps, I guess.
Well, let me ask you this too. There's some yellow paint where there was no parking. Now there is a parking spot. Is that the borough's responsibility to clean that up? Because someone may say, you know, I parked in the spot, but there's yellow on the curb. And the other thing is there's 2 residents between Early and the school on the left side that had damage to their driveways. So I think we, you know, we're gonna have to make an inspection. Thank you for your time.
Just like to comment on a couple of things, Mr. Marlowe. One is that Lynn, Council President, and I were at a meeting at Bethany Manor. I actually spoke with the leadership there, as well as a representative that was there for housing, and I informed them on how they should communicate with the high-rise on 50 Beer Street, because they just renovated all their units, and they did a rotating basis. So the residents would be moved for 2 weeks into another unit within the building. So they actually have some vacant apartments over in Bethany Manor, so I advise them that that's what they should be utilizing and not moving them out of the building. I don't know if that's their plan, but that was strongly discussed in that meeting. And the other thing is, you heard me last meeting that I'm not just accepting the infrared repair and that I want investigation. It hasn't fallen off our radar, but as you're also aware, our community went through quite a bit the last couple of weeks, so sometimes we have to prioritize that.
I do understand that. And I understand your point regarding Bethany Manor, but you as well as I know, you being close to the Bethany Manor, when you're in your 80s, high 80s, and someone tells you you may have to relocate, you're scared. And it's all right to be, you know, because they think, if I leave, are they going to let me back? And they shouldn't have to worry about that.
Yep.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Graham?
Howard J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. A few things. First of all, on the Bethany Manor thing, I definitely agree with what Mr. Merlo just said. Those people, the senior citizens over there, need to be deserve to be treated with respect and everything like that, and you know, give them a break and stuff. I mean, that's all I have to say on that. As far as the homeless goes in Keyport, in regard to our homeless veterans, what's the borough of Keyport doing about that? For the veterans that are homeless.
If any member of the community is homeless, I have spoken to many of the members of the community that are homeless. As we already indicated, the chief has whatever resources we could do, and we will try. And there are plenty of people that we have provided services to that are no longer homeless because of that. So there's different associations with the Veterans Association and the Department of Military Affairs that we can refer them to. But I'm not going to sit here and list who I forgot them to.
I'm just saying, if you're a military veteran and you're homeless, that's a national disgrace regardless. They served this country and they even make the ultimate sacrifice. Okay? As far as Logan Planks goes, in Keyport High School there, I understand the Keyport Football Alumni Association's, you know, having a GoFundMe event with him and all that, which is great. I contributed to that some too. And I understand, Madam Mayor, that you asked the residents of Keyport to keep him and his family in the cross tonight. But what is the Borough Council going to do to help him and his family out? Or what?
I'm not gonna say whether at liberty or not, just say whether any council members have contributed to the GoFundMe, and we're not at liberty to say that. But I will tell you that I can firsthand speak on that, how myself, and I did attend last week's football game, attempted to be able to purchase one of the t-shirts that say for Logan, hashtag for Logan, which is his football number, but they were sold out. So I still contributed money, and I'm looking forward to new shirts coming in so I can still buy the shirt. So, but I'm not gonna, we don't need to publicly disclose or call council on what they're going to do.
Well, okay, and a couple more other things. As far as maybe Governor Murphy goes, I know I've been asked this for quite a few years now, but I think this borough council should consider inviting him to Keyport to give a town hall to the residents of Keyport, or to attend a borough council meeting and stuff like that, you know, and talk with the residents of Keyport. Okay, one last thing. Veterans Committee, we're going to have one before Veterans Day or around Veterans Day, or a meeting?
At this point in time, we've already accomplished what that Veterans Committee was established for, and I've confirmed with the state of New Jersey Department of Veterans Affairs, which is the organization that held that certificate program, and we've already met all the obligations for that. So in regards to staying in touch with our veterans, as I said, I've been attending, and have been for several years, the American Legion meeting.
Okay, and I would hope that the next mayor who takes office brings that Veterans Committee up again, and even if we just have to sit and talk, you know, everything like that, see what's going on with veterans in our borough. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lane?
Michael Lane, and Council President McNamara, I want to thank you for an excellent review of the process that your committee went through on the cannabis. And I think that would have been a great introduction to a public hearing on the ordinance. I will make the following comment. In your ordinance, you had listed a set of conditions. I think there was 7 or 8 conditions. The public might have been able to add some value to that condition list. For example,
Mr. Lane, can I interrupt you? Which ordinance are you talking about, the pilot or the cannabis?
cannabis ordinance.
We already had a public hearing on cannabis.
No. On the ordinance that was passed.
Sorry, that wasn't an ordinance, that was a resolution, and there was not a public hearing for a resolution, so.
The resolution
Right,
was passed.
Mr. Lane, those points have already been addressed this evening.
The resolution that was passed had a set of conditions in it. And very valid. But the public might have been be able to add some value to the condition list. I'll give you an example. If you look at the property record card for 105 on the highway, it says it's a building, but it also is approved for a billboard. And my memory is there used to be a giant billboard. In my experience for going through Massachusetts, where cannabis has been a law allowed for some point in time, you have these huge billboards in the towns. Are we going to have a huge billboard right next to this location? Those are the kinds of comments the public can bring to your superb process of selection. But you didn't open it to the public to give any input on conditions.
We opened it to the public, Mr. Lane, every single meeting since the ordinance was adopted last year in the public hearing, and every meeting since, at the end of every single council meeting, any member of the state or the country or outside of the country is open to come to the public comment if they have any questions. There was no secret that this was going on through our borough. There was, how many years was it being discussed whether we were going to move it forward, whether we were opting in, opting out. There has been umpteen times.
I'm questioning.
You are questioning. You're saying that there's been no time for public to say what they want their conditions to be.
No.
You are.
With this ordinance, every ordinance that we've had reviewed by and approved by this governing body this year has been open to the public for comment on.
Mr. Lane, I'm not really quite sure how else to say this. This was not an ordinance. It was a resolution.
Resolution. I'm sorry. I misstated. The resolutions, there were half a dozen resolutions tonight that were before this council that the public was allowed to give input on.
And you were able to give an input on the same public portion at the public meeting in September as well, at the end, just like you are now.
No, I wasn't.
You were. And I'm sure we could probably go back to the minutes that you probably did speak, because I'm not sure that there's a meeting that you've never
Oh,
spoken.
boy, that's right. This resolution wasn't crafted. You didn't see what the set of objections, you didn't see what the set of conditions were until I got it through an open request last week, the actual resolution.
Which is
And-
how each
and that-
resolution is handled.
Pardon?
That's how every resolution is handled.
There was no public information on that resolution which lists a set of conditions. That information was unknown till after this council voted on it at midnight back in September. And by the value that it could be to the council is by treating, again, you're gonna look at a resolution tonight for the cannabis license in the borough, in the downtown general commercial district. I ask you not to have the closing vote on that resolution, but bring it back to the public as, at the next council meeting, as a resolution that the public can comment on. Because as I say, I think there's a real issue with the billboard at this site, and you didn't have the opportunity to hear that from the public.
Mr. Lane, I think you're missing the point. If you have any commentary that you want to provide regarding the cannabis, now would be the time to speak. I'll even extend you another 3 minutes since you're past your time. If you have anything to speak about cannabis application that is going to be considered during closed session tonight, that would be the time you would speak, just like it would have been in September.
No, I can't comment on the resolution because I don't have it in my hand. I don't know what the set of conditions are.
You wouldn't anyway, because no resolutions are out, and so it's for the governing body to see and approve.
Every resolution that was on the agenda tonight I saw ahead of time, and I commented on multiple of them. So, again, council members, you're empowered. I ask you to put together your resolution, but don't close the door and vote on it until you get public input. Because it's going to be in the downtown. The residents of the borough may have important input to share with you that wasn't on your checklist, that wasn't on all your qualification issues for the applicant. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the impact on the environment, the impact on the neighborhood, and being open to hear that before you do your final vote.
And that is what this public session is for, and every other public session and every meeting. So if we please move on, Mr. Lane, because your time is up.
Trevor, on the four-way stops, is there any way to get the environmental commission involved to do this extensive work on that issue and get this thing turned around?
I'm not sure what you mean, environmental commission. The county approved 2 of them today.
I'm talking about the four-way stops on First and Broad and First and Atlantic.
The ones that the county denied today?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know why the environmental commission would be involved in that. That wasn't the recommendation from the environmental commission.
It was.
I was on that committee when it began, Mr. Lane, when we started those studies, but that's
Mayor,
two
the final-
totally different things. Those are the TAP grant, and this was a different project for the ones that were added today.
The final report that Mike Palmisano put together analyzed the time to travel down First Street, the impact of the
We
four-way
understand,
stop.
but the Atlantic Street is a part of the TAP pedestrian improvement.
Right.
Correct, and that was not a part of that application. It was a secondary request later on. It was not part of the original request to the county. So we added it, and it was not approved today. You've asked us to continually follow up on it. Those are the answers that were given.
And I'm asking how we can turn that around. The Environmental Commission wrote an extensive report on the need for those four-way stops at First and Broad and First and Atlantic. And you can just see how critical they are with the number of light poles that have been knocked down by cars speeding down Broad Street and making a right turn on the First and taking that
Okay,
lane.
Mr. Lane, your time is up. Yes, sir.
There you go.
Yeah. One other question. Any report on the maintenance of the Henry Hudson Trail?
Scott Young, 20 Spring Street, Keyport, New Jersey. In reference to the homelessness, I was walking my dog the other night, and I was over by Cedar Street Park, and the park that goes on the waterfront to the left, across the street from the park. And I don't know how many people there were, but they were whistling to each other from the trees, or like in dark areas. I saw one or two of them faintly, but I got a 150-pound shepherd, and I kind of felt inadequate because I thought there, there was something going on. I didn't know what it was, and they were singling each other around me. So I turned on my heel and I left. And this is only 2 nights ago, and it seemed like there was a bunch of them by the beach part of Cedar Street, near the side. On that note, that's it with that. But as far as the resolution with the cannabis, I'm really happy to hear the town's moving forward and entertaining this stuff, because progressively I see this as part of the future, as PTSD and numerous other things where 3 of my sons are veterans, and I constantly hear about veterans taking their own lives, and it's ingrained in these guys that that's drugs. And it's kind of hard to have them turn toward marijuana therapy, which would probably save their life and would do something to break PTSD, which it knows it does. And the stigma that goes with it, and people like keep bringing it up and holding back progress. And, I'm just really happy to see that we're moving forward with something that's actually beneficial. And I don't know why it keeps getting trounced and getting a bad label, but I don't see that. And I'm happy to see this town's doing stuff about it. And it's not going to be a town next door, or Kingsbury, or somewhere else. It's going to be here. I also have a property on East Front Street, and I have no problem with the property next door has it, or a property on the block has it. Because if you really look into things, every gas station has stuff called kratom and bath salts and shit that have people eating people's faces. I'm sorry. Bad things have happened with that. And people have gone into mental institutions because of it. And I don't know why they do what they do, but they're not monitored. They're not, like the stuff that's coming over the border now with fentanyl. It's not monitored. And I'm glad to see that it is going to be. And people have a half a shot at getting something that is what it's supposed to be. And they can actually work with getting healthier or staying alive, for that matter. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Angie? Councilmember Barone, can you please help her? Or can you let her use your microphone, please?
Yeah.
Here's the table. Shimmy down the table. Yep. There's my seat right there. That's sit right there. Wait. Go ahead and sit. Just sit. Let me grab the mic for you. There's the mic.
I think Angie just said that that's going to be her chair for the remainder of the meeting. I don't know why she didn't get that chair all night.
I walk the dog.
That's okay. Yeah. My name is Angelina Palazzaro. I live at 71 Broad Street, apartment 2, in Keyport, obviously. I wanted to make a comment first about the sidewalk improvement. Being I'm a totally blind individual, that kind of thing is very important because it's very easy to fall down, even with a wonderful dog like Molly. I would like to input that they improve the crossing over there on Broad and Front Street, because the way the sidewalk
curves around, you can see them there on the table. It directs to the middle of the intersection. So if you guys do intend to do the sidewalks, if you could take that into account, it would be appreciated. Because my last dog decided that we were going to go diagonal across the street. Not exciting. Second thing I'd like to bring up is the cannabis distribution point in downtown. I've lived in this neighborhood since 1989 October. I love this town. I love the people in this town. I have known Donnie, who has an application in for the former Wells Fargo property. He is a major asset to this town, a major asset to my personal life, and I would strongly recommend that you approve his application as a distributor of cannabis, because he is also a longtime resident of this town. He's involved in athletic activities on various levels, owns a gym and other things here in Keyport. And I believe he would be an extremely responsible individual. I look up to that man. He has helped me on numerous occasions. And I think there was one other thing, but I cannot recall what it was. So, yeah,
Thank you.
I believe so, because I can't remember the third. Oh, I got it.
Councilwoman Pepperoni today?
Yeah, you the man. You and Rose. And Johnny over there. The one other thing I wanted to comment about was the senior citizens. Being that I have a disability, I can understand how disorienting it would be and how frightening it would be if someone came to my door, my landlord, and said, "We're renovating your house, we need to relocate you." Very scary, because you're used to your surroundings, your street, everything in your building, you know. So I would strongly like to see them conduct the process of renovating those apartments the way that it was done over at 50 Beers. And I have several friends in 50 Beers, and they were comfortable being moved to another apartment for the 2-week process, and then returning to a very, very nicely redone apartment. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron, for your saying, no problem. Thanks for taking care of the dog.
My name is Christian Abrahamson. I'm at 156 Deer Street. I'm here to show support for Donnie Blanks. Also, he's a close friend of mine, and I would like to everybody to support his application for the in-town distribution.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Debbie Nardone, 79 Greengrove Avenue, Newport. I'm also here tonight to support Donnie. I've known him for a very long time, and he is a wonderful member in the community, and he's been around here for so long that I think he's the person to do this. He's the one who's going to make sure that it's done the right way with everybody in town in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? I see a hand up in the back, Jeff. Mr. Frost? Sorry, I couldn't see the light up there.
Jack Straub, 235 Main Street. I also want to thank and compliment Council President McNamara for the very detailed information that you provided. And in support of what Mr. Lane was saying earlier, I believe the point maybe he was trying to make was throughout the summer there were numerous members of the public that were asking what's going on. It just seemed like things were going on behind the scenes. I think the public would have appreciated having more information, more detailed information throughout the process. It was very detailed what you gave us tonight. But as things were going on and we were asking for information, we didn't have any of that. And I think Mr. Lane's other point was when the resolution is ready to be voted on, if that was done at a regular meeting, if there were any other things that the council hadn't caught, maybe that would be an opportunity for one last public input. But again, thank you for the detailed information you get tonight.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yes, ma'am?
Hi, my name is Andrea Welsh. I'm at 214 Washington Street, Keyport. I'm also here in support of Donnie Blank's application for the cannabis business. He's been in this town for 20-plus years and has done everything above and beyond for the children of our community and for the community as a whole. We would like nothing better than for somebody who cares about our community to take that, knowing that he cares what happens in this town, for our town, for the community as a whole, and for the children.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, sir?
Yes.
You let him go first.
Yes.
Thank you.
With that.
Like my height. Sean Buford, 65 Warren Street in Keyport. I'm a 30-year resident of town. Here to support Donnie Blanks on the cannabis resolution. Also would like to say sidewalk on Broad Street, I cannot wait for those to be fixed. Because walking the kids to school in the winter is pretty difficult. Thank you.
Anyone else that hasn't gone yet before this one comes back up? We have a minute left on this time.
Yeah, not going to use that much.
Great.
So thank you.
I just have one other question, if that's all right.
Hold on one second, Angie.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, Scott Young, again, 20 Spring Street, Keyport. I just wanted to say, above and beyond what I did say before, Donnie Blanks is doing this. That's the guy I support 100% also. He's always straightforward, and lays out a plan, and he's extremely good at doing that, and he's got my vote of confidence 100%. And again, I congratulate you guys for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Angie?
My apologies, I'm sorry.
No worries.
My question was pertaining to the parking lot, if the resolution is approved for Donnie to have the distribution point at the old Wells Fargo building, would it be possible to get signage that indicates that there are visually impaired persons in this area? I know of 2 other visually impaired, legally blind people that are in this town, so I just wanted to ask about that for safety.
I don't think we have to wait for an application to be passed on that. I think that's something that we can move forward with having added to our community in general. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Kai.
Jack, you agree? Thank you. Any other members of the public?
Okay.
Yes, sir. In the back.
How you doing? Kevin Seawright, 10 Provost Avenue. I'm here in support of Donnie Blanks as well. I know that the plans that he has and he would like to put forward when it comes down to this cannabis thing, I'm very excited about. There is a huge mental health component to the sale of cannabis, to the uses of cannabis, which I'm also excited about for Keyport to get its hand on. In reference to the veteran situation that you brought up, I'm not sure if you're aware of the Soldier On group, but they also do a lot. They'll actually come out and they'll apply services. But I'm here in total support of Donnie Blanks, so hopefully things can move forward in his favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I didn't see who you were either.
Man, makes me feel old. Michelle Bresca, 39 Monroe Street. I have a question about a sign also. I was hoping to add to my street a slow children at play. I moved in 2015 to my home. I'm on Monroe Street toward the dead end, so we have a one-way out that is not always used as a one-way. So we have to worry about cars coming up that way. We also have a lot of speeders coming down. I think because they think it's a dead end and they could just go out, it's like they move kind of fast. So I moved in 2015, there was 2 houses that had children. There are now 9 houses that have children. So I know our entire town is only 25 miles an hour. Our street does not have a 25 mile an hour sign. Our street does not have sidewalks, and our street only has some curbs that some of the residents paid for to put in. I personally don't have curbs, so I'm also, and we are also one side of the street parking. So while that's helpful because it's a narrow street, you're now walking out into the street with your children and there's cars blocking you from being seen. I have the little flag yellow neon guy from Home Depot. I have another like triangle sign that says slow children at play. Both of them don't really help. There's a couple utility poles on our street toward the end, toward Atlantic. That would be perfect for a nice yellow sign that says slow children at play on this street. I've seen them elsewhere. Our street is also used frequently for the high school games and the high schoolers that park because there's not really a parking lot for them. So there's also on the street parking. And then the Pop Warner games and the high school games are right around the street on Jackson, but that's always blocked off, so everyone parks on one row. So there's a lot of kids all the time, not just us 9 houses that live there. So I love a slow children at play flag.
Trevor and Jay, can you please review that request?
Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Mike?
I wanted to respond to a comment you made earlier. I didn't want to be obvious, but everyone from the governing body had reached out to my family and the community as a whole. I wanted to thank everybody. And I appreciate everything you've done over it and for my family. So every last one. Police chief also. So I just wanted to let them know that thank you. And that's what community's all about, you know. I've been here for a long time. We always put our differences aside, and I didn't want it to be about that, but I want them to know that you guys immediately reached out to Mary and offered to bring food to my family at the hospital. The chief delivered food herself on the off time, and I mean, I don't want to get specific, but every last one of them have went over and beyond for my family, and that's why I love my community, and that's what it's all about. So I just wanted to say.
Any other members of the public? Mr. Beckfield?
Lawrence Vecchio, 55 West Front Street, Keyport. I was coming here to endorse Donnie. I thought that might be a mistake because I tried not to be the right one to do that, but on behalf of Donnie, I really think he'd be good for our community. I would hope that, I would just hope you do the right thing.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir.
Good evening, council, everybody. I just want to say good evening. Taking over all of the comments here, I just wanted to come up and make a quick comment. Again, my name is Gary Jordan from Herbalize. My son and I are also up for an application. My son was went to school down here, but wasn't here for the public aspect of things. About a day, he's been growing up in Keyport. All his friends live in Keyport. That's the reason why I decided to put him here in Keyport, because all his buddies are here, school here, and all that good stuff. And I just wanted to say another thing about to the council and the mayor and everything else. I'm the one who runs the largest cannabis conference in New Jersey. Our conference is coming up this Friday. We got the Secretary of State, the governor's going to be there. Everybody's there. I'm the one who's teaching everybody, all the applicants in the state for over 5 years. I'm the one who's studying it inside and out. And as a blueprint to running these businesses successfully, I also own a 26-year-old successful digital marketing agency, which also makes it a lot easier for me to be able to maneuver as a business. And one of the things that I've historically seen from studying this from 7 years is that a lot of towns selected individuals that they had a favor for, but really wasn't the best business decision. And what happened was, a lot of those towns never got cannabis. and those people failed, and they never got cannabis. The town failed, it hurt the towns, and it also hurt the applicants. So it's really about selection of the best candidate when it comes down to these things. Just for my studies of doing this for multiple years and looking at everybody giving me all of the information, that you want to be really careful about selecting the best candidate. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yes, sir?
Daniel Williams, 92 Broad Street, Keyport. Here for Donnie Blanks as well. He's like family to me. To the entire community, I think he's the best fit for everybody. Thanks.
Any other members of the public? Yes, sir? Sorry, yes, Mr. Faltings?
Okay. Jason Faltings, 40 Broad Street. First of all, I want to thank you, Borough Attorney London, for bringing up your suggestion about the high-rise for our seniors. Our seniors are what we used to be. I'm also here to endorse Donnie Blanks. Yes, somebody else had said as far as being successful businesses, Donnie has community in mind. And if there's anything that Donnie needs done or has questions on, everybody here will agree Keyport is a family. Whether you're blood or you're not blood, everybody will work with Donnie and help Donnie however they can make it better, because Donnie has all of our kids and everybody in town in his head. He's there for everybody. Whether they're his kids or somebody else's kids. He's always there to support and help at everything that's available. Thank you.
Anyone else? If there's anyone out in the hallway that wants to publicly comment, please come in now, because I can't see your hands out there. Carlo?
Hi, Carl Pena, Rafferty Boulevard, 260. I just wanted to say, Councilwoman Kathleen, that was a wonderfully thorough expose on the due process on the cannabis thing, and I really appreciate that. I think eager willingness to be transparent like that with all processes just kind of helps your citizens trust the administration a lot more. And I think a lot of the room agree with that. They all were wonderfully pleased that you just kind of laid it all out and things like that. So on that note, I just want to state an observation that I've sort of made. I could completely see the point in making sure the location is a priority in terms of safety and traffic flow. And I'm also seeing a lot of people here sort of expressing the value of having that sort of thing being handled by an already in place fixture in town, one who's a proven leader, both with youth and even adults. And that's all I'm observing. Maybe that's something to consider, you know, which is more important, keeping up with the town spirit and the town pride, or accessibility and convenience for out-of-towners. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, attorney, members of the Keyport community. I wanted to introduce myself formally to the community because although I've been here for 10 years, I think a lot of people don't know who we are. My husband and I own and operate D&M Enterprise right on French Street at number 88. We have owned the building for the last 10 years. It is a successful business. It is a small business. That is what D&M is about. And if we win the application for green and gold, that is our intention for green and gold as well.
I'm sorry, ma'am, can you state your name, please, for the
Maureen
record?
Gerhardt.
Thank you.
Sorry, I apologize for that. Our intention with green and gold might be a little different from the other applications you received. Our small business works because we run it, we own it, we fund it. It is all our blood, sweat, and tears. Our intention for green and gold is the exact same process. We will be a small, family-operated business, and most importantly, self-funded. What that means for general public is we will not take money from big cannabis industry. We will not be directed or associated with big cannabis. what we see happen too often is big companies come and try to get a foothold in this state. New Jersey right now is not allowing big cannabis in, but they are coming in anyway. Our application is unique because it's about us. It's about our family. It's about how we run a very successful business currently, and we will follow the same business model. We want to continue our partnership with the township, with the borough of Keyport. We want to continue giving back. I've heard a lot of people say great things about the other candidates, and I cannot see anything negative. What I just wanted everybody to know is we are also here supporting the town. Our charity or give back happens to be the Veterans Association because my husband is a veteran. So we work very closely with the VFW and fund a lot of their projects. We currently just did a few renovations. If you've seen the VFW lately, you may have noticed the cabling is better. We're fixing one of the windows that apparently was taped up because nobody was there. We want to talk about veterans. We want to talk about veteran support. Green and Gold is exactly what we are about. Giving back to the local communities the way we currently do with our business right now. We just want to continue that ability and really thank you for all the time and commitment that you guys have put into this process. Look, I filled out my own application and I can't tell you the hours I struggled getting all the documents. I cannot imagine the time and unpaid at that level that you have spent reviewing this. I really appreciate the thoroughness of this system and of the way things work here. We just look to move forward and continue our business in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Seeing no hands, can I please have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. And no objection.
Mayor, if I may, since there's been so much public comment regarding the pending cannabis applications, this is probably the appropriate time to, just for the public record, to indicate that in response to the applications as well as the presentations that were previously conducted, the borough has received objections to an application regarding the location and its proximity to a religious institution. And just for the record, I want to indicate that that has been reviewed. It was referred to both the borough's tax assessor for clarification onto the status of that religious organization and the property. Additionally, the applicant has provided supplemental information, which has been reviewed by the borough's engineer, and it has been determined that the application is in conformity and does not prohibit the restriction that's required under the borough ordinance. I should also mention that, as noted in the application, there is a specific reference to a change in the physical entry location of the building, and that has also been reviewed by the borough's engineer. And it was his recommendation that if in fact there is any, if that application were to move forward, it should include a condition that requires that entrance to be relocated in accordance with the stated intent of the application.
Well, thank you for that update. With all due respect, that would have been very helpful to have that during Deus reports before the public comment. So with that said, now that that's been put out there, I think we should do due diligence and open it to the public. If anyone has any commentary to what Mr. Delaney just reported. In favor?
Aye.
Anyone have any commentary or questions to what Mr. Delaney just updated? Seeing no hands, can I have a motion to close to the public?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Ms. London, can you please read the closed session memorandum?
Yes, we have a resolution 2022 resolution of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, authorizing the meeting out of the public in accordance with the provisions of the Community Meetings Act. Whereas the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, published by corporate and politics of the state of New Jersey, is subject to certain requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. And whereas NJSA 10:4-12 provides that a closed session not open to the public may be held for certain specified purposes when authorized by resolution. And whereas it is necessary for the borough to discuss in a session not open to the public, certain matters covered by the legal exemption set forth in the Act involving pending or anticipated litigation involving one, Borough of Keyport versus Bay Ridge Realty Corporation, docket number MON-L-000334-2, 2, Borough of Keyport versus Bushwick Realty Corp., 3, correspondence from KBMJ legal counsel regarding denial of application for cannabis letter of support, and matters falling within the attorney-client privilege concerning cannabis business license applications, all pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12B7. Now therefore be it resolved, the mayor and council assembled in public session on October 18th, 2022, and determined that a closed session not open to the public shall be held on the state at the Borough Hall for discussion of the matters relating to the specific items designated above. It is anticipated that some matters discussed in closed session may be acted upon after deliberations this evening. And for those matters not acted upon, they will be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the borough that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Can I motion to go into closed session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone